It was a quiet day in the vastness of space, a day that seemed like any other for the crew of the Perseverance. They had been mining distant asteroids for years, pulling resources from the dark depths of space to fuel the growing human colonies across the galaxy. Captain Finn Harper, a seasoned and strong-willed leader, stood at the helm of the ship looking out into the expanse. He loved the silence of space, the way it seemed endless and full of possibilities. But he didn't expect today to change everything. The day had started like any other. The ship had docked near a newly discovered asteroid belt, a cluster of ancient, decaying rocks and scattered debris floating in the black void. The miners had already begun their work, drilling into the asteroid's surface to extract precious metals, but something had caught Finn's attention on the ship's scanners. A strange signal, a low hum, had appeared on his radar. At first, it seemed like just a glitch. Space was full of mysterious signals, most of them just noise from distant stars or unseen phenomena, but this one felt different. It was structured, rhythmic. It felt almost purposeful. "Captain, you'll want to see this," called out Lieutenant Sarah Mendez, Finn's right-hand officer. Sarah was sharp, quick, and loyal, always ready for a challenge. Her voice broke the calm of the bridge, and Finn turned to face her. "What is it, Lieutenant?" Finn asked, walking over to her console. Sarah pointed to the screen where a series of data points formed a recognizable pattern. "I think this signal is coming from something artificial, sir. It's not just background noise." Finn's eyes narrowed. He wasn't sure what it was, but his instincts told him to investigate. The crew had been looking for something new, something exciting for a long time. In the emptiness of space, they needed more than just resources to survive. They needed hope. Set a course to that location. Let's see what we're dealing with. The ship slowly changed direction, heading towards the source of the mysterious signal. As they approached, the signal grew stronger, and the crew began to get nervous. No one had any idea what lay ahead, but curiosity was a powerful force, and the thought of discovering something new pushed them forward. The signal led them to an area of space that appeared to be an ancient battlefield. The wreckage of ships, hundreds of them, littered the void. Some were small, others enormous, their broken forms drifting like ghostly remains of a war long forgotten. Most of the ships were of alien design, their markings faded, their shapes unfamiliar. "Report, Sarah, what are we looking at?" Finn asked, his voice steady but filled with awe. I don't know, sir," Sarah said, her voice tight with disbelief. "It looks like a battlefield, but the ships are ancient. Some of these hulls are centuries old, maybe even older. I've never seen anything like this." Finn studied the wreckage on the screen, his mind racing. "Is there any sign of life? Any distress signals?" "No, Captain. No signs of life," Sarah replied, shaking her head. "Just dead ships." Finn took a deep breath. His curiosity was piqued. He ordered the crew to approach the largest wreckage, a hulking alien ship that appeared to have been shattered by a massive explosion. It was clear that whatever battle had taken place here, it had been a brutal one. The ship's hull was warped and cracked, a testament to the violence of its destruction. "Prepare a boarding party," Finn ordered. "We need to see if there's anything we can salvage." The crew worked quickly, preparing for their first mission onto the alien wreck. Finn, Sarah, and a small group of engineers and scientists boarded the shuttle. They descended slowly toward the wreckage, the hull of the massive alien ship looming large before them. As they neared the surface, Finn could see the dark voids inside the ship, its hallways and rooms scattered with debris. The shuttle landed with a soft thud, and the crew disembarked, stepping cautiously onto the shattered hull. Finn's boots clanged softly against the cold metal. His heart raced with excitement. This wasn't just a shipwreck, it was a puzzle, one that, if solved, could change everything. They moved carefully through the corridors, navigating the twisted and broken structure. It was eerily silent. The only sounds were the soft hum of their equipment and the occasional creaking of the ship's damaged frame. "Stay close," Finn ordered. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." The crew followed him through the darkened halls, their flashlights illuminating walls covered in strange symbols and alien writing. They came to what looked like a command center, its control panels shattered and sparking. But at the far end of the room, amidst the wreckage, something glowed, a faint pulsing light. Finn approached it cautiously. It was an object, rectangular in shape, covered in ancient markings that glowed faintly. The object was a piece of technology, something far more advanced than anything they had ever seen. It was beautiful, almost otherworldly. Finn reached out to touch it, and as his fingers brushed the surface, the object activated with a soft hum. Suddenly, the entire ship seemed to stir. A low rumble echoed through the corridors. The crew froze, looking around in alarm. The ship had been silent for centuries. Why was it coming to life now? A voice, strange and mechanical, echoed in Finn's mind. "You have found the relic. You are the one who will forge the future." Finn's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what this meant, but he could feel a strange energy pulsing through him, a connection to something ancient and powerful. This wasn't just a random discovery. This was something much bigger, something that had been waiting for humanity. The object in Finn's hand began to glow brighter, and suddenly, a holographic map of the galaxy flickered to life before them. Lines of energy shot across the map, connecting distant stars and planets. A location was highlighted far out in the unexplored regions of space. "This is a map," Sarah said, her voice trembling with awe. "But it's not like any map I've ever seen." Finn nodded, his mind racing. This was a key, an artifact with knowledge beyond anything humanity could have imagined. But what was it for? Why had it been left here hidden for so long? And why had it chosen him, a simple human, to uncover its secrets? Before he could ponder further, a low rumble shook the ship, followed by a sharp flash of light from the control panel. The relic in Finn's hand seemed to vibrate, and the room around them began to shake. "It's activated something," Sarah said, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to get out of here." But Finn wasn't ready to leave, not yet. Something told him that this relic, this ancient artifact, held the key to humanity's future. He couldn't let it slip away. "Not now. Prepare to extract the relic," Finn said firmly. "We're not leaving without it." The crew quickly secured the relic, carefully packing it into a protective case. As they made their way back to the shuttle, Finn's mind was racing. The relic had activated something deep within him, something that made him feel connected to the stars, to the galaxy itself. Whatever this was, it was no accident. This was destiny, and it was calling to him. As the Perseverance left the wreckage behind and began its journey back to the nearby human colony, Finn looked out at the stars, feeling a strange sense of purpose stirring inside him. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had always been the underdog, fighting to survive in a galaxy dominated by powerful alien empires. But now something had changed. The relic was just the beginning. As the Perseverance hurtled through space, heading back toward the human colony, Finn Harper couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The relic was safely locked away in the ship's secure vault, but its presence lingered in his mind. Every time he passed by the vault, he felt a strange pull toward it, as though it was calling to him. The glow from the artifact had left an imprint on his thoughts, and now, as the ship glided through the stars, he couldn't help but feel that the universe was watching. It had been days since they discovered the relic. Finn had ordered the crew to keep everything under wraps for now. No one outside of the Perseverance knew about their discovery. At least that's what Finn hoped. The last thing humanity needed was to attract unwanted attention from powerful alien empires, like the Trian Dominion. "Captain," Sarah Mendez said, breaking Finn from his thoughts. She had been working tirelessly in the ship's lab, analyzing the relic's data. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "You need to see this," Finn's heart raced. He had been expecting this moment, the moment when the relic's true power would reveal itself. He followed Sarah to the lab, where a team of engineers and scientists had been carefully studying the artifact. "What did you find?" Finn asked, his voice steady despite the excitement building inside him. Sarah turned to him, a mix of excitement and concern in her eyes. "It's a map. But not just any map. It's a blueprint for something much more. Something we didn't even realize existed." The team had connected the relic to the ship's computers, and now the map displayed in holographic form in the center of the lab was far more detailed than anything Finn had ever seen. Stars, planets, and entire star systems stretched out before them, but there were lines connecting them, almost like threads woven across the galaxy. Some of the lines pulsed with light, while others were marked with symbols Finn didn't understand. "This," Sarah continued, pointing to the glowing lines on the map, "appears to be a network, an ancient network created by a civilization that predates everything we know. The lines, they seem to lead to something. I believe it's a weapon." Finn's eyes widened. He wasn't prepared for this. He thought they had discovered some old relic, a piece of forgotten technology. But a weapon? What kind of weapon could be powerful enough to alter the course of the galaxy? Do you mean a weapon from the Zarkon? Finn asked, his voice low. The Zarkon, an ancient race known for their power and knowledge, had once ruled the galaxy before disappearing into the mists of history. Yes, Sarah replied, her voice trembling. But this is more than just their technology. This is something different. The relic is showing us a map, but it's also giving us instructions, guidance. It's like it's trying to tell us how to unlock the power of the Zarkon themselves. Finn rubbed his temples, trying to process everything. And what happens if we unlock it? Sarah hesitated before speaking. I'm not sure, but if the Trian Dominion or any other empire gets their hands on this, they could become unstoppable. They would have the power of the Zarkon at their fingertips. Finn's mind raced. The Dominion, the most powerful empire in the galaxy, had always seen humans as nothing more than insignificant pests. But now with this relic, humanity had something far more valuable. Could they really control the power of an ancient civilization? Get in touch with Commander Harris on the colony, Finn ordered, his voice filled with urgency. Tell him we need to start preparing. We may have just found something that could change the entire balance of the galaxy. Sarah nodded and moved quickly to send the message. As she worked, Finn stood in the center of the lab staring at the map. His thoughts were clouded with questions. How had the relic come to be on the destroyed alien ship? Why had it chosen him and his crew to uncover it? And more importantly, what would the universe do if humanity unlocked the secrets of the Zarkon? The more Finn thought about it, the more he realized that they weren't just dealing with a piece of ancient technology. They were dealing with a destiny that had been waiting for humanity to find it. But with that destiny came a responsibility, one that could either save or destroy everything humanity had built. As Finn returned to the bridge, he looked out at the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. The map in their possession held the key to a future humanity could never have imagined. But he also knew that their enemies would stop at nothing to seize it. The message from Commander Harris arrived just as Finn was about to give the order to change course. Harris's voice crackled through the comms, filled with static, but Finn could still make out the urgency in his tone. Captain, you need to get back to the colony. The Trian Dominion's ships have been spotted nearby. They're closing in on us and we're not prepared for a fight. Finn's heart sank. He had hoped to have more time to study the relic, time to understand it. But now, with the Dominion closing in, the situation had become far more dangerous. The time for preparation had passed. The battle was coming and humanity had to be ready. Understood, Finn replied, his voice calm. Set course for the colony. We'll defend it no matter what it takes. As the crew scrambled to prepare the ship for battle, Finn felt the weight of the relic's power pressing down on him. They had just discovered a weapon more powerful than anything humanity had ever known. And now, the very same weapon could be their undoing. The Trian Dominion would stop at nothing to take it, but Finn wasn't about to let that happen. He knew that humanity's survival depended on the secrets the relic held, and he would do whatever it took to protect it. As the Perseverance changed course heading toward the human colony, the crew braced themselves for the battle ahead. The Dominion's ships would soon be upon them, and they had no choice but to fight. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Finn stood at the helm, his hands gripping the controls, his mind racing. The galaxy was about to change forever, and humanity's role in that change would be decided in the days to come. He could only hope that they were ready. The stars seemed to grow darker with every passing moment. Finn Harper stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, his eyes fixed on the view of the galaxy stretching out before him. In the distance, faint signals flickered from the nearby human colony, a peaceful settlement that had once been nothing more than a quiet outpost. But now, it felt like the last bastion of hope in an increasingly hostile galaxy. The relic, locked away in the ship's vault, pulsed with an energy that seemed to echo through the ship's halls. Finn couldn't stop thinking about it. He had seen the map, the lines connecting distant stars and the promises it held. A promise of power, of knowledge, of the chance for humanity to finally step out from the shadow of alien empires. But that power came with danger, and danger was closing in fast. Captain, we've got company. Sarah Mendez's voice snapped Finn out of his thoughts. She was standing at the communications station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she studied the incoming data. The Tryon Dominion fleet is almost here. We're running out of time. Finn's heart raced, but his expression remained calm. The Dominion was no surprise. They had known that the moment the relic's power was discovered, they would come. The Dominion was ruthless, and they would stop at nothing to claim the relic for themselves. If humanity didn't act quickly, the consequences could be catastrophic. "Alert the crew," Finn ordered, his voice steady. "Prepare for battle. We don't have much time." The crew sprang into action, their faces filled with determination. The humans had never been in a battle like this before. The Dominion's ships were massive, heavily armored, and far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. But they had one thing that the Dominion didn't: hope. And that hope came from the relic. In the lab below deck, Sarah and the engineers were busy working on the new technology that had been unlocked by the relic. It wasn't just a map or a weapon. It was a blueprint for a new kind of technology, one that could turn the tide of the battle. The relic had given them the means to build energy shields, faster-than-light engines and weapons capable of damaging even the most powerful ships. The Dominion's fleet was vast, but humanity now had a chance to fight back. Finn made his way to the lab where Sarah and the engineering team were putting the final touches on their new defenses. He could see the anxiety on their faces, but there was also a spark of something else, a sense of purpose. "Captain," Sarah said as he entered, her voice a little shaky but filled with resolve. "We've been able to reverse engineer the technology from the relic. We've modified the ship's weapons to match the energy patterns from the map. If we can get these systems online in time, we might stand a chance." Finn nodded. "How long do we have?" "At best an hour," Sarah replied, her eyes darting between the data screens. "The Dominion is coming in fast. If we're lucky, we can get the shields up and the weapons primed before they arrive." Finn clenched his fists. "We'll make it work. Just keep me updated." As he left the lab and made his way back to the bridge, he couldn't help but think about the relic again. It was more than just technology. It was a symbol of humanity's strength, of their survival, of their future. The galaxy had always seen humans as weak, but now, with the power of the Zarkon at their fingertips, that perception was about to change. The battle was coming, and Finn knew that this was their moment. They could either fall to the Dominion, like so many other civilizations before them, or they could rise. The stakes had never been higher. The bridge was abuzz with activity as the crew made their final preparations. Finn watched as the screens blinked with incoming data, the distant fleet of the Tryon Dominion growing ever closer. The crew was working at full capacity, but Finn could see the weariness in their eyes. They had been on edge for days, knowing that the battle was coming, but now it was here. There was no turning back. "Captain," Sarah's voice came over the intercom. "The new shields are up. They're holding, but we don't know how long they'll last against the Dominion's firepower." "Good work, Lieutenant," Finn replied, his voice calm despite the rising tension in his chest. "Let's make sure they don't have the chance to test them." The battle began as the first wave of the Dominion's ships appeared on the horizon. Their enormous dark silhouettes loomed like predators, casting long shadows across the stars. The Tryon Dominion fleet was an impressive sight. Cruisers, destroyers, and battle carriers all bristling with weapons, each one capable of obliterating anything in its path. But Finn was not afraid. Not anymore. The crew of the Perseverance had something the Dominion didn't: hope in the power of the ancient relic. "Fire the main cannons," Finn ordered, his voice carrying the weight of a commander who had been pushed to the edge. "All systems engage." The first shots from the Dominion ships ripped through the void, their lasers streaking across the darkness. But the Perseverance was ready. The new energy shields flared to life, absorbing the incoming fire and holding steady. The ship rocked slightly, but the shields held strong. "Shields holding at 60%, Sarah reported from the lab. "But they're intensifying their fire." Finn's heart pounded as he watched the battle unfold on the screens. The Dominion ships were formidable, but they weren't invincible. The relic had given them an advantage that they couldn't afford to waste. "Return fire," Finn shouted, gripping the armrests of his chair. "All weapons, full power." The crew followed his orders, and the newly modified cannons on the Perseverance erupted with energy. Bolts of searing light shot out, hitting the Dominion ships with precision. One of the smaller frigates in the enemy fleet exploded in a burst of light, its hull splitting apart. The crew of the Perseverance cheered in victory, but Finn knew this was just the beginning. Another wave of Dominion ships arrived, this time with reinforcements. Finn gritted his teeth. They were outnumbered, but he wasn't about to let that stop him. The relic's power flowed through the ship's systems and humanity's hope burned brighter than ever. "We need to take out their flagship," Finn said, his eyes narrowing. The Dominion's flagship was the heart of their fleet, and if they could destroy it, the remaining ships would fall into disarray. "Targeting the flagship," Sarah confirmed. "We've got a clear shot. Fire," Finn commanded. The shot from the Perseverance's main cannon struck the flagship, tearing through its shields and causing massive damage to its core. The flagship's shields flickered, and the crew could see the massive ship listing to one side as it struggled to regain control. But then, the Dominion retaliated. A massive blast hit the Perseverance's shields, sending the ship tumbling through space. Finn's stomach lurched as the ship shook violently. "Report," Finn barked. "Shields are at 40%, Sarah's voice came through, tight with stress. "We're holding, but we can't take much more of this." Finn's grip tightened on the control panel. He knew what they had to do. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's future. They had come too far to let the Dominion win now. "Finish it," Finn ordered. "Target their engine core. This ends now." The crew worked swiftly, locking onto the Dominion flagship's vulnerable core. The Perseverance fired once again. The blast hit the core, and with a deafening explosion, the flagship of the Trion Dominion was torn apart. For a moment, there was silence. The remaining Dominion ships hesitated, their commanders unsure of what to do next. It was a brief, fragile moment of victory, but Finn knew this battle was far from over. The fight for humanity's future had only just begun. The silence that followed the destruction of the Dominion flagship was short-lived. The remaining ships in the Trion fleet seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if trying to process what had just happened. But Finn Harper didn't have time to celebrate their victory. The battle was far from over. The Dominion's forces were regrouping and they were angry. "Captain," Sarah Mendez called out from the communication station. Her voice was tight with urgency. "The remaining fleet is pulling back, but they're preparing for a larger strike. We don't have much time before they regroup and launch another attack." Finn's eyes narrowed. The Dominion had always been ruthless, and this momentary pause was likely just a trick to lure them into a false sense of security. They would come back stronger, faster, and with a vengeance. "We need to act fast," Finn said, standing tall. "Get the rest of the crew ready. We're not just defending anymore. We're going on the offensive." The crew of the Perseverance worked quickly. Everyone had been pushed to their limits, but the fight for humanity's future was far from over. They had managed to defeat the first wave of the Dominion, but there was a greater challenge ahead. The Dominion wasn't going to let a small human ship disrupt their power without consequences. They would fight back and they would fight hard, but Finn had something the Dominion didn't: the relic. The Zarkon technology that now flowed through every system on the Perseverance was a game-changer. It had given them the power to turn the tide of battle, to strike back against a superior force. And Finn knew that it was the only reason they had survived this far. The crew worked tirelessly, upgrading the Perseverance's systems even further. Weapons were fine-tuned, the energy shields strengthened, and the ship's engines modified to give them a faster-than-light capability, far beyond what human technology could normally achieve. The relic's power was like a lifeblood, coursing through the ship's systems, unlocking abilities no one thought possible. As they completed their upgrades, Finn found himself alone in the command room, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The Dominion was still out there, their fleet regathering strength. But there was another problem brewing, something Finn couldn't shake. He felt like they were being watched, not just by the Dominion, but by something else, something hidden in the shadows. He couldn't put his finger on it, but something didn't feel right. "Captain, you need to see this," Sarah's voice came over the comms. There was an edge to her tone, concern, even fear. Finn rushed to the bridge, where Sarah and a few engineers were already gathered around a data console. The screen was filled with a series of encrypted communications intercepted from one of the Dominion ships. At first glance, it didn't seem unusual, but as Sarah zoomed in on a particular section of the message, Finn's stomach dropped. "Who sent this?" Finn asked, his voice cold. "It's from someone inside the Alliance," Sarah replied, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It's a coded transmission. Someone in our ranks is working with the Dominion." Finn's heart raced. A traitor. A traitor in their midst, and they hadn't known. They had trusted everyone on board, but now it seemed that trust had been broken. The Dominion had infiltrated their ranks, and they were playing a far deeper game than Finn had realized. This isn't just sabotage, Sarah continued, her voice trembling. This could be a full-blown betrayal. The traitor is giving the Dominion all the information they need to counter our weapons, our shields, everything. We're not just fighting an external enemy. We have someone on the inside. Finn clenched his fist, trying to contain his anger. Find out who it is. No one leaves this ship until we know who's behind this. The next few hours were filled with tension as the crew worked tirelessly to track down the source of the betrayal. Security systems were checked, communication logs were reviewed, and every member of the crew was questioned. The crew's trust had been shattered, and Finn could feel the strain in the air. Everyone was on edge, but time was running out. The Dominion was closing in, and they couldn't afford to waste any more time. Finally, after hours of investigation, they found a lead. The transmission had been sent from one of the senior officers on the ship, someone who had been with Finn since the very beginning. Captain Elena Voss. Finn couldn't believe it. Elena had been his trusted second in command, a woman whose leadership had been invaluable during the toughest moments of their journey. To think she could be working with the Dominion, betraying everything they had fought for, was almost impossible to comprehend. "Get her to the brig," Finn ordered, his voice cold and steady. "We need answers." Sarah, her face pale with shock, nodded. "Understood, Captain." As Elena was escorted to the brig, Finn couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. A betrayal like this wasn't just personal, it was dangerous. It could cost them everything. And the worst part? Elena was the last person anyone would have suspected. Hours later, Finn stood in front of the brig, staring at the cell where Elena sat, her face a mask of calm. She didn't seem scared, didn't seem regretful. She looked almost resigned. "Why?" Finn asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he stood on the other side of the cell. "Why betray us?" Elena looked up at him, her eyes filled with something he couldn't quite read. "You don't understand, Finn. You don't understand what's really at stake here." "I understand that we're fighting for the future of humanity," Finn said, his voice growing stronger. "I understand that we've been through hell to get here. And I understand that you've been working with the enemy. Why?" Elena let out a soft laugh, one that sent a chill down Finn's spine. "The Dominion isn't the enemy, you are. All of you are." Finn's heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" She leaned forward, her voice lowering to a near whisper. "The Zarkon technology is too powerful. You don't know what it really is. The relic you've been using? It's not just a tool. It's a trap. And you've walked right into it." Finn stared at her, trying to make sense of her words. "What do you mean, a trap?" "The relic was never meant to help humanity," Elena continued, her eyes hard. "It was meant to control it. The Zarkon didn't just rule the galaxy. They used their technology to enslave entire civilizations. And now you're the next target." Finn's mind was reeling. He had trusted Elena, they all had, and now it seemed like everything they had been fighting for was built on a lie. "Why didn't you tell us?" Finn asked, his voice shaking with frustration. "Why didn't you warn us?" "I tried," Elena said quietly, "but no one would listen. I had to make a choice, and I chose the Dominion. They're the only ones who can stop this madness." Finn stood there for a long moment, processing her words. He didn't want to believe her. He couldn't, but something in her voice made him wonder. The relic had given them power, yes, but what if it had also given them a curse? What if the technology they had used to fight for their survival was actually leading them down a path of destruction? As Finn turned away from Elena's cell, his mind was filled with questions. The fight for humanity's future had taken a dark turn, and Finn realized that the real battle was only just beginning. The Dominion was coming for them. But now they had a new enemy, the relic itself. The galaxy had always seen humanity as weak. But now, with the fate of the relic in their hands, humanity's greatest test was just ahead. Would they use this power to shape their future, or would it destroy them all? The galaxy seemed to stand still for a moment. The Perseverance drifted silently in space, its engines dimmed as the crew tried to process the revelation of betrayal. Captain Finn Harper stood alone in the command room, staring at the stars. The weight of what had happened in the last few days pressed heavily on him. Elena Voss, his trusted second in command, had betrayed them all. And worse still, her words echoed in his mind. The relic was not a tool, but a trap. He had never felt so unsure of his own judgment. Could Elena be right? Was the Zarkon technology really a curse and not a blessing? Finn's thoughts churned as he grappled with the consequences of the decisions they had made. The relic had granted them the power to stand up to the Trian Dominion. But now, Finn wasn't sure if it was leading them toward victory or doom. "Captain," Sarah Mendez's voice broke through his thoughts. "We need to talk." Finn turned to see her standing at the door of the command room, her face drawn with worry. The crew was still on edge. The threat of the Dominion remained, and now, they were faced with the possibility that the relic, the very thing that had given them their chance to fight back, was not what it seemed. Finn nodded, motioning for Sarah to come in. She stepped forward, her expression serious. "The crew's ready to follow you, Captain, but they need answers. We all do. What do we do now? The Dominion is regrouping and we're sitting on a weapon that might destroy us all," Sarah said, her voice tight with concern. Finn sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know, Sarah. I thought we were doing the right thing. We've used the relic's power to defend humanity. But if what Elena said is true, then I'm not sure where we stand anymore." Sarah stepped closer. "Captain, we don't have time to second-guess ourselves. The Dominion is still out there. They're preparing for another attack, and we're the only ones standing in their way. We have to make a decision." Finn stared at the stars outside the ship's viewport, the vastness of space stretching endlessly before him. The galaxy had always been a dangerous place for humanity. The Trian Dominion had crushed every resistance they encountered, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. Now it was their turn. But would using the relic's power be enough? Or was it, as Elena suggested, just the first step toward their destruction? He turned back to Sarah. "What if she's right? What if the relic isn't a gift but a curse? What if we're about to unleash something that could endanger everyone, not just the Dominion?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't know, Captain. But we can't afford to sit around and wonder what might happen. We need to act. We can't go back to hiding anymore. We've come this far." Finn looked down at the datapad in his hands, his mind racing. The map of the galaxy displayed on the screen was still fresh in his memory. The map showing the threads that connected the stars, the promise of ancient power. The relic had been meant to guide them, but now it felt more like a burden. "There's only one way to know for sure," Finn said, a new sense of determination filling his voice. "We have to take the fight to the Dominion. We have to destroy their fleet once and for all. If we can defeat them, then maybe we'll have the chance to figure out what this relic really means." The crew of the Perseverance worked in overdrive. Every member, from the engineers to the soldiers, knew what was at stake. The Dominion had regrouped, and their next strike would be even stronger. The only chance humanity had was to strike first, to hit the enemy before they could organize a full-scale attack. Sarah, with the help of the engineering team, worked on further modifying the relic's power to enhance the ship's systems. The new weapons they had developed from the Zarkon technology were now fully integrated. They had learned how to channel the relic's energy into devastating blasts of power. If they could use this to their advantage, the Dominion would be crippled before they even knew what hit them. Finn paced back and forth in the command room, checking the progress of the preparations. He knew the risks, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. The fate of humanity was on the line. As the final modifications were completed, Finn gathered the crew in the briefing room. Everyone looked tired, worn out from days of constant tension. But they were ready. They were united by one thing: survival. "Listen up," Finn said, his voice firm. "This is it. We've got one chance to take down the Dominion, and it's going to take everything we have. The relic has given us the power to fight back, but we need to use it wisely. We're going to hit them hard and fast. We take out their command ship, and the rest of their fleet will fall apart." The crew nodded in agreement. They had fought too long, too hard to give up now. Each person aboard the Perseverance had come to realize that this wasn't just a fight for humanity's survival. It was a fight for their place in the galaxy. They had proven themselves capable of so much more than the Dominion had ever expected. "We're ready, Captain," Sarah said, standing beside him. Finn met her gaze and smiled slightly. "Let's make sure they remember who we are." The battle began as soon as the Perseverance dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Trian Dominion fleet had no idea what was coming. Finn gave the order to fire, and the ship's newly upgraded weapons unleashed a torrent of energy at the first wave of Dominion ships. The blasts tore through enemy shields like paper, disabling several ships before they even had a chance to react. The crew worked in perfect sync as the Perseverance danced through space, using the relic's power to keep their shields strong and their weapons focused. It was everything they had hoped for, until the Tryon fleet's flagship appeared, larger than anything they had seen before. It was heavily armored and armed with devastating weapons. "That's the heart of their fleet," Sarah said, her voice tight with fear. "We've got to take it down." Finn's heart raced. The Dominion flagship was their only target now. If they could destroy it, the rest of the fleet would fall apart. "Fire everything we've got," Finn ordered. The weapons of the Perseverance fired relentlessly, beams of energy slamming into the flagship's defenses. The ship rocked as enemy fire struck their shields, but they held strong. Finn focused all of his energy, every ounce of the relic's power, into one final shot. "Now!" Finn shouted. A single, powerful blast shot from the Perseverance's main cannon, cutting through the Dominion flagship's shield like a hot knife through butter. The blast hit the core of the ship, sending it into a fiery explosion that rippled across the fleet. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the remaining Dominion ships began to retreat, disarrayed and panicked. With their command ship destroyed, they had no direction, no leadership. It was over. As the battle ended, Finn stood on the bridge, his heart still pounding from the rush of victory. The crew had done it. The Dominion was broken, their fleet scattered and in retreat. Humanity had won, but Finn's thoughts lingered on the relic. The victory was theirs, but the questions remained. The relic had given them the power to fight back, but was it truly a blessing or a curse? He didn't have all the answers yet, but for now they had survived. The stars stretched out before them, vast and full of possibilities. Humanity had proven its strength, its resilience. They had reclaimed their place in the galaxy. And whatever the future held, they were ready.